On July 7th of 2011, a man in Grand Rapids, Michigan woke up with pure evil on his mind. What he would do after he left his home would absolutely shock an entire city. This is the day that Roderick snapped. Hello, friend, and welcome to High Time Crime. My name's Joel, and on here I specialize in true crime and also fiddling with random objects. But anyway, today we're going over a not-so-covered case that I find to be absolutely ridiculous given the circumstances. Genuinely, there is a lot that happens, and it sort of just gets crazier as the story progresses, so stay tuned. Roderick Shante Dantzler was born on March 8th of 1977, most likely in Grand Rapids, Michigan, to his mother, Victoria Dantzler. I know for a fact that Roderick's father was not in the picture and never would be. I also don't believe that he had any siblings either. At some point in time though, his mother Victoria got married to another man, and that man wasn't a great person himself. Growing up, Roderick and his mother dealt with verbal and physical abuse from the stepfather. It was also stated that the stepfather was addicted to drugs and had a bad alcohol problem. So basically, Roderick's early life wasn't good. He had no male guidance, and he was in a toxic household. Because of this, Roderick was very angry and had an explosive temper. The smallest of things could set him off. He was also only going to get worse. Roderick, by the time he was 15 years old in March of 1992, got arrested for the first time, and this was for breaking into an occupied house and stealing a car. He was convicted in juvenile court because of this, but his sentencing wasn't published because of his age. This is also around the age he began smoking. And that actually reminds me. Have you ever quit something you know wasn't good for you, but then you're just left with this weird little void? Like your hands still want to reach for something. Your mouth misses the habit, but you're done with the toxic stuff. That's where the sponsor of today's video, Fume, comes in. Now listen, Fume is not a vape. It's also not an e-cig. There's no smoke, no vapor, and no nicotine. It's literally just flavored air. You're not breathing it in. This isn't about your lungs. It's about flavor hitting your mouth in a really satisfying way. It's honestly kinda genius. You get that sensory feel, something to hold, something to do, without the addiction, the chemicals, or the damage. And the best part, you can use it literally anywhere. On the couch, in the car, at work, even right before bed. No one's gonna stop you. There's nothing to light, charge, or hide. There's no batteries and no cords. You just pick it up, pop in your flavor, and you're good to go. And these flavors, they're all natural and non-toxic. There's minty, citrusy, refreshing, whatever vibe you're going for. Fume's got something for it. Plus, compared to smoking or vaping, it's way cheaper. And there's no guilt, no withdrawals, and no junk in your body. Just a clean, simple experience that feels good and looks good too. The design is sleek and the product is weighted. It's actually nice to hold. It feels premium. So if you're looking to break a habit, or you just want something better to reach for, check out Fume. Go to tryfume.com/hightimecrime or scan the QR code. It's super easy. Use code HIGHTIMECRIME at checkout and they'll throw in a free Fume topper when you grab the Journey pack. Once again, that's tryfume.com/hightimecrime. Trust me, this is the kind of switch your future self will thank you for. From 1992 to 1994, Roderick would have several more run-ins with the law, but they were minor charges for the most part. He also would never finish high school, by the way. In 1994 is when Roderick began dating or being friends with a girl who was only 12 to 13 at the time named Jennifer Heron. Terrible, but these two would be on and off from this point until 2011, just so you're aware. Going back though, in 1995, Roderick was continuing his heinous behavior, and this time it hit directly home. Roderick and his mother got into an argument. His stepfather was also there, and so he decided to set fire to their home. Roderick's mother, Victoria, called the police and then got a personal protective order against him, or a PPO. In the court affidavit, Victoria described Roderick as having a very explosive temper and that he will act violently without thinking, and that she also lives in fear of him hunting her down. The PPO was granted to Victoria, and Roderick was then kicked out of the family's home. Also, in 1995, Roderick received 3 other PPOs filed by past or current girlfriends for threats and behavior. And just so you are aware, Roderick was not a loyal man to any one woman. He had a lot of different girlfriends and relationships. That year, or 1995, Roderick had his first child, and he was sort of in her life even until the later years. By 1997, one day Roderick was hanging out with a close female friend when they got into an argument about a missing cassette tape. Roderick slapped this woman across the face and swore at her, and then he left. She called the police, and Roderick was then arrested and charged and convicted of domestic violence and malicious destruction of property. He was given 33 days in jail, probation, and fines. Also, in 1997, Roderick had gotten another woman pregnant, and she took him to court for domestic violence. This woman said, and I quote, "I won't be able to leave him with the baby and myself still being alive." Clearly, she was frightened over Roderick's behavior. Roderick was given a PPO for this, and I'm unsure if anything else came from it. 2 years later, on February 8th of 1999, Roderick would have another child, and this time it was with the girl Jennifer Heron. Jennifer at this point was 17 years old, Roderick was 22. Their child's name was Camry Deanne Heron Dantzler, and Roderick would be in and out of her life. Also, in 1999, Roderick was in a relationship with an adult woman, not Jennifer, and one day he slammed a car door into that woman's legs during an argument. This broke the car door and also really hurt her legs, and Roderick was given a PPO for this. By this point, he had over 5 of them, and he was still being terrible to women without any real repercussions. The next year, in 2000, Roderick was now 23 years old, and he was driving on the road one day when he got into some sort of road rage incident. A couple was driving, and something occurred between them and Roderick. Roderick decided to pull a gun out and fire multiple shots at them, luckily not hitting them. This couple then tried to get his license plate number, and Roderick fired off more shots at them. Because of this, Roderick was arrested and charged with assault with intent to do great bodily harm less than murder, which was a felony. Roderick would be convicted on this and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in Michigan State Prison. While in prison, because he didn't finish high school, he got his GED and also met with a therapist. This therapist documented that Roderick carried a deeply rooted anger from his childhood, particularly linked to the absence of his father and because of his stepfather. The therapist acknowledged that Roderick had an underlying emotional stability, but did not flag him as being a major behavior risk. Roderick in prison was actually a model prisoner. And according to family, friends, and even a church pastor, it seemed like he was actively trying and wanted to turn his life around. In May of 2003, Roderick was granted parole after serving about 3 years of his sentencing. This meant he would have to check in with a parole officer, and he had travel restrictions and other conditions. I have no idea what Roderick did for the next 2 years besides that, once again, family, friends, and his pastor said that he was getting better and becoming an improved person. In May of 2005, Roderick was officially granted a full discharge, and he was now off of parole. Around this time, Roderick would then begin working as a building technician, but this was short-lived and would end around 2008-ish. From this point forward, Roderick began receiving disability because I'm not sure exactly when, but he was diagnosed with having bipolar disorder, and he was also given some kind of medicine. In 2009-ish, I believe, Roderick was dating a woman named Amanda Emkins, and I don't know exactly the details of their relationship, but I do know that Amanda ended this relationship because she was fearful of Roderick and his instability. By 2010 though, Roderick stopped taking that medicine, and he was starting to become very bad. Some reports say it was 2011, but he was drinking all of the time, and he started doing. He was also in an on and off relationship with Jennifer, the now woman who he had a child with. They would live with Roderick wherever together, and the relationship was just incredibly toxic. Also, in 2010, Roderick would get in trouble with the law yet again. This year, he was charged with assault and battery against someone, and he had to serve almost a year in jail. We can assume that this was pretty early in 2010, and what he did against two is not released. So in the spring of 2011, Roderick was released from jail, and things got even worse. His relationship with Jennifer completely deteriorated, and she decided to take their daughter and move back home with her parents. In very early July of 2011, Roderick, in one last ditch to reconcile with Jennifer and their daughter, took them to an amusement park, and from what I could tell, they had a decent time. On July 6th of 2011, Roderick was said to have been incredibly withdrawn, drunk, high off of coke, and very. This day, he wrote a letter to his mother, and inside of it he referenced that he was dealing with demons and depression, and that he was suffering severely. Here's an excerpt from it. "Mama, I know you're gonna be sad and disappointed, but I'm tired of living with these demons in my head. I tried getting help, but the medicine didn't help. If hell is anything like what I deal with on a regular basis, then I'll be fine. Maybe God will understand and have mercy on my soul." Roderick also wrote about how he wanted to take his mother-in-law with him, and a bunch of other things. The next day, what he would do was absolutely sickening. On July 7th of 2011, Roderick Dantzler woke up with pure evil on his mind. What he did in the morning isn't known, but sometime by the afternoon, Roderick was ridiculously and drunk. Roderick essentially just snapped and grabbed his illegally obtained gun, a Glock 19 9mm, which I'll talk about a bit later. So after this, Roderick would then around 2:30 p.m.-ish go to the parents' house of his ex-girlfriend, Jennifer Heron. Inside was 29-year-old Jennifer, their 12-year-old daughter, Camry, and Jennifer's parents, 51-year-old Thomas and 52-year-old Rebecca Heron. Roderick would break inside of this home and murder all 4 people. After this, he left the home, got into his car, and I believe this is when he called his mother to tell her that he just shot and killed his ex-wife. I don't know what else was said. Eventually, they'd hang up, and Roderick's mother would then call the police to tell them what he did. Meanwhile, Roderick would then go to another ex-girlfriend's home, the home of 27-year-old Amanda Emkins, who he was with a few years prior. Inside of the home was Amanda, her 23-year-old sister Kimberly, who apparently also had a relationship with Roderick, and her 10-year-old daughter Marissa. Roderick broke inside, and then he murdered all of them. After this, he left the home, and this was around 3 p.m. Roderick sped down the road like a lunatic, and then got into another road rage incident like years prior. This time, he fired a shot through his rear window at a guy named Robert Poor, who was driving behind him. This bullet actually struck Robert in the face, but luckily it was deflected by a titanium plate that was placed into his skull from a surgery years prior. Robert survived this attack with minor injuries, and he said that his window shattered and his arm went numb, but the plate saved his life. This incident was immediately reported to police. but at the time it wasn't yet connected to the other crime reported by Roderick's mother. At 3:18 or 3:34 p.m., I read both of them, one of the parents of Amanda Emkins and Kimberly Emkins found both of them and Amanda's daughter Marissa dead inside of the home and called 911 and said that they need help now. Around 4 p.m., police were out heavily looking for Roderick and at the scenes of all of the crimes. Roderick was still driving around in his car, but he realized that he was being tracked, and so he decided to call his friend Willie Cunningham to pick him up because he said he needed a ride to his girlfriend's car. Willie, oblivious to what was happening, agreed and picked him up. Willie said that Roderick began to drink alcohol and snort when he got into his white Chevrolet SUV. At some point in time, someone called Willie, and this is when he found out about what Roderick did. Willie asked him what was going on, and he said that Roderick just lost it. Roderick apparently started describing how he killed his victims, and he blamed it on someone owing him money. Willie told Roderick he needs to turn himself in, but Roderick refused and said he's gonna take himself out. However, a little bit before 7 p.m., these men were driving in downtown Grand Rapids when Roderick noticed one of his friends, April Swanson. Roderick told Willie to catch up with her, and instead he began driving toward the police station downtown. I believe they were very close to April though, and so Roderick decided to yell out to her, "April, April, I gotta talk to you." April was on the phone at the time, and so she hung up and called 911 and said that she was being chased and that Roderick was right next to her and not letting up. Roderick would fire 5 shots at April, and he hit her with one of them in the shoulder. April would survive this wound, but the sound of gunshots and all the commotion immediately drew police to the area. A patrol car then attempted to stop the men, and I don't know if Roderick threatened Willie or not, but Willie decided to jump from the moving SUV. Roderick would then take over the vehicle. Next, the cops attempted to stop Roderick again, and a gunfight ensued. Roderick started firing multiple rounds at police while they were ramming his car, and they fired right back. Roderick then sped away in the SUV, and he was weaving through traffic like a madman, and he even brought the cops onto the highway. Eventually, Roderick would cross the median and started going against traffic in the opposite direction. Roderick was being chased by more than 12 different cop cars, and mind you, this was during 7 p.m. traffic. He almost crashed into multiple different cars, but luckily didn't, though he did end up crashing into a ditch. Roderick then took off on foot, and right where he decided to take off just so happened to be a residential neighborhood. At about 7:20 p.m.-ish, Roderick kicked in the door of a single-family home on Rickman Avenue Northeast. When he did that, he fired several warning shots to let them know he was entering. Inside of this home was 53-year-old Joyce Bean, 70-year-old Stephen Helderman, and Meg Holmes, who was a family friend that was a house and pet sitter. Joyce and Stephen lived inside of the home, and not one of them had any connection to Roderick. Initially, when Roderick broke inside, Meg was able to hide in a closet, but Roderick was getting very agitated while talking with Stephen, who had hearing problems, and so Meg decided to reveal herself to hopefully calm the situation. Roderick at this point took all 3 of them hostage, and for the next 4 hours or so, it was just pure chaos. Roderick fired at the officers multiple times and yelled out that he doesn't give a fuck about nobody, that he's already dead, and if they don't start doing what he says, he's going to kill another motherfucker. He also asked the police if there were snipers outside and where he should stand to give them a clear shot. At some point, Roderick called 911 himself while inside the home, and I'll play that for you now.
911, where is your emergency?
Emergency is I got a hostage. I don't like the police barking orders at me.
You don't like the police barking orders at you? Where are you?
You know where I'm at. You got to.
No, actually, I don't.
Well,
because you're calling from a cell phone, so I don't know where you're at.
Well, I'm where the hostage is at.
Which is where?
And ask all the police in Grand Rapids where the at. Then you know where I'm at. I don't about killing nobody. I'm already dead. So if you don't start doing a safe, I'm going to kill another.
After this, hostage negotiators tried to reason with Roderick for hours, and at about 9 p.m.-ish, Roderick told them that if they want him to keep talking, he needs cigarettes and Gatorade. At about 9:15 p.m., the negotiators got him his demand, and in turn, he decided to release 53-year-old Joyce Bean. This was at 9:18 p.m. Joyce exited the home, but Stephen and Meg were still inside. Negotiators kept talking to Roderick for the next 2 hours, and he became increasingly despondent and distraught, crying that his life was over. They were able to talk him down from committing more violence multiple times. At 11:20 p.m., Roderick told police that he was considering surrendering and asked how he should go about it. But Roderick decided that wasn't how he wanted to go out, and so instead, he decided to go into the closet where Stephen was at the time. Roderick, at the age of 34 years old, then took himself out right in the closet in front of Stephen, though Stephen said he turned his head. Stephen and Meg then quickly got out of there, and the police went inside, and that was the end of the rampage of Roderick Dantzler. After killing 7 people, injuring 2 others, and scarring 3 others for life, it was all over. Why exactly Roderick did what he did, I don't think will ever be known. It's clear from a young age that he was a violent and twisted individual, but what he did goes even beyond that. Earlier I mentioned that Roderick was using a Glock 19. Well, it was stolen from someone in Kent County, Michigan. They reported it missing on July 30th of 2009. A guy named Joseph Michael Cole stole the gun that year and then sold it to a guy named Michael James Allen. Michael then sold it to Roderick, who he knew was a felon, and this was all done on Facebook. Eventually, Michael would be charged with selling the gun to Roderick and sentenced to prison for 10 years. Joseph Cole pled guilty for also being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm, and he was given 5 years and 3 months with 3 years of supervised release. Roderick brutally murdered 7 people for zero reason whatsoever, and they deserve to be remembered. 10-year-old Marissa Lynn Empkins was young and cherished, and she was innocent and adventurous, described as a little impish angel that everyone loved and misses so much. Marissa played softball, and in 2012, a ball field was renamed in her honor. 23-year-old Kimberly Ann Empkins was, I read, also a former ex-girlfriend of Roderick's, but I'm unsure of that. Kimberly, however, was a cherished sister and friend, and she had a gentle and warm nature to her. Amanda Renee Empkins was 27 years old and worked in the shoe department at Kmart. She was loved by everyone and remembered for her wonderful smile and humor and ability to brighten any situation up. Amanda had a large circle filled with close friends, and they loved her. Amanda was also the mother of Marissa. 12-year-old Camry Deanne Heron Dantzler was a bright and talented middle schooler. She excelled academically and was constantly earning straight A's. Her favorite classes were language arts, photography, and choir. Camry had nicknames such as Tank, Snackback, and Cuckoo, and she was playful, affectionate, and very good-spirited. By age 12, Camry was reading high school level books, she built a school recycling project, she loved soccer, Camry loved life in general. 29-year-old Jennifer Marie Heron was the oldest daughter to her parents, and at the time a compassionate medical assistant. Jennifer graduated from Ferris State University and had worked at a company called Advantage Health for well over a decade. Jennifer was described as quiet, but well-liked, and a person that always put others before herself. She would babysit for her relatives, she loved playing dice games, she loved R&B music, and had specific nights to go bowling. Jennifer was also a compassionate mother who unfortunately got mixed up with the wrong guy from an incredibly young age. Her father was 51-year-old Thomas, or Tom Heron, and he was a well-respected third-generation co-owner of Heron Brothers Produce, a local wholesale business in Grand Rapids. Tom was a generous and straightforward man who would give you the shirt off his back. Tom grew up farming and eventually became a businessman as well. He was an avid sports fan, he loved going to the Detroit Tigers games, Michigan State events, and he'd always be tailgating. Tom was deeply involved in their local community, and he was known for his work ethic and big heart. Rebecca, or Becky Heron, was 52 years old and a loving wife, mother, and grandmother. She was the sixth of 8 children and was described as being strong, outspoken, and generous. Becky supported everyone in her family at all the things that they did, and she really had a knack for making people feel at home. Becky loved her children and grandchildren, and they often baked together to celebrate the holidays. It's very upsetting to know that all of these people's lives were tragically cut short for zero reason at all. I really hope that they are all resting peacefully. Once again, go to tryfume.com/hightimecrime or scan the QR code and use code hightimecrime to get your free fume topper when you order your journey pack today.